Hello, welcome back to SEO is Not That Hard. It's me here, Ed Dawson, as usual. And today we're diving into the fascinating world of digital PR and link building. In this episode, I'm joined by Chris Pantelli, who's the co-founder of Linkify, which is one of the world's top digital PR agencies. And we'll explore how to earn those really coveted editorial links from major publications that can really drive growth in your SEO. And we'll discuss smart strategies like inbound and outbound pitching, and even reveal the secrets behind how to do effective newsjacking. So whether you're a seasoned SEO, just starting out, whatever your level, I think Chris's insights are going to really help you build credibility and drive real traffic to your site. So yeah, let's jump in with Chris right away. So welcome, Chris. This is Chris Pantelli, and he's from Linkify. And Chris, if you just want to give a quick intro to the listeners so they know who you are and where you've come from.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ed. My name's Chris Pantelli. I'm the co-founder of Linkify. We're one of the world's leading digital PR link building agencies. And I've done quite a few podcasts in recent months. And I think this one, I am the closest in actual proximity to the host. So I'm a stone's throw away from you, aren't I, really? We're in like the same party.
We almost could have done it in person.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Yeah.
So today we're here to talk about links. Now, Chris approached me and said, could he come on and talk about the digital PR type links that they're doing? And I thought it'd be just a real good to have someone who's a bit more of a link building expert than I am. I mean, anyone who knows me and listens to this podcast know I had my issues with link building. I used to do all sorts of link building pre-Penguin, so pre sort of 2012, 2013 times. I did quite a lot of bad link building, got penalized quite badly. And at that point, I changed my philosophy and sort of have abandoned link building on a personal level since that time. And I've concentrated very much on content, which is very safe. But as I always say to people, it is a bit of a slow burn to start with to get to where you want to be. So links are very powerful. All the content I build, I am aiming to build content to get links. But sometimes you want to accelerate that process. And there are different ways of doing it, some with sort of much less risk than others. So first of all, Chris, why don't you explain the kind of links that you build at Linkify?
Yeah, sure. So we do digital PR link building, which is for us, because obviously in any form of link building markets, you'll get unscrupulous people operating. So they'll say it's one thing, they'll say it's another. So for us, digital PR link building is editorially earned links. So that's where we are pitching on behalf of a client in order to earn them coverage on a tier 1 publication, with the hope that that publication includes a link back to the client's website. The issue with link building in terms of digital PR is we fundamentally don't transact for any link. So you can even reach out to what's seemingly on the surface of it very, very high authority publications. You may pitch them, a press release or some expert commentary, and they may come back to you and say, "This is good. We'll include it, but we have administration fee, or there's a £200 charge for us to place this coverage, which we do not engage with." So for us, it is 100% editorially earned, and like you said, Ed, with content being a slow burn, this is a slow burn link building process because it's very, very competitive. So it's got the competitive nature. And then there are multiple obstacles in the way, from taking on a client, or you can do this yourself as well, and then engaging with the media and getting a link. And that can be anything from first of all, impressing the journalist for them to include your quotes within their article, right the way through to the journalist, the publication that they work for, their editorial lead times, their editorial linking policies, just a whole host and myriad of factors that can result in not getting the link that you want. So it's really time consuming. But for us, it allows you to, this week, we just landed links for clients in the National Geographic and Hostinger for one of our tech clients, which is a huge hosting website. So the quality is just insane. But like I said, it's slow burn and very competitive.
Yeah, cool. So for anyone who's not, because obviously you used the term tier 1, so what do you define as a tier 1 sort of partner to get links from?
In terms of, but for us, digital PR spans the UK and the US, and then it's mainstream media, which is the publications that you've heard of in terms of like traditional news publications. So as a fellow Brit, you'll know Daily Mail, Daily Star, Guardian, the Mirror, all of the big newspaper publications that have websites as well. And then outside of that, on like a metrics, in terms of metrics, we would be looking at DR, Ahrefs, domain rating, and traffic. And for us, tier 1 is very, very high DR, so above a DR 70, and not just a few thousand organic monthly sessions, but tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of organic monthly sessions. And that's just showing that's Google rewarding that site with significant organic traffic, which is for us puts it in that tier 1 bracket because it's so trusted by Google that it's receiving such significant amounts of organic traffic, and that's going to be passing the maximum amount of A, link juice, and B, protection in terms of it truly is an earned media link as opposed to any other sort of link builder.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and the other key thing I picked up was your description of links being editorial. So that editorial side bit, and that's a word I think Google use themselves in their guidelines, their spam guidelines, don't they? They talk about non-editorial and non-editorial links. So if I'm right, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, the editorial is the fact that is a whoever is placing that link, the author of the content and who's placing that link, is they're making that decision for themselves with no incentive one way or the other to where to place that link, when to place that link, and whether to, essentially put a no follow on that link or a follow. Although obviously there is no such thing as a followed link because they're just links, or they're no followed or marked as sponsored or UGC or other things. So it's the fact that although you're engaging with the people to sort of put that content in front of them, or a story or a quote or anything in front of them, you can do that, and that's legitimate to sort of bring it to people's attention. But the key thing is that there's nothing changes hands, whether it's cash or goods in return, for anything coming back the other way. That editorial means the person has made that decision for themselves with no coercion, essentially. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. And actually, just yesterday, Reach PLC, which is one of the really big media houses in the UK that owns Express, Mirror, a few of the other huge publications, they sent an email out. So this all came out on Twitter yesterday to all of their journalists to say that they were really unhappy about one particular journalist who had included a number of casino links throughout a number of articles. And so they've actually changed the policy now. So all links are included at the discretion of the journalist, but must be approved by the editor, the manager of that editing department for that.
Wow.
So it's getting harder and harder to get links. Obviously, as an SEO and a link builder, for us, it's about the link. But on the other side of it, what we're really doing to the journalist is engaging with the journalist to be editorially involved in their article by way of providing commentary or unique data or blah, 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 blah. But as SEOs that own a link building agency, we want the link, we want the link, we want the link.
Yeah. But it's being careful to not cross that line between editorial and non-editorial, which should obviously, if you're there in the discussions and you've got oversight of that, it's easy to know where you are. But obviously, it's key to also make sure that you're not doing things that are going to flag up to Google any kind of issues. What kind of things do you have to do to sort of make sure that anything you're doing doesn't cross that line, or where are the boundaries? Is it opaque, or have you got hard and fast rules?
We don't really have to do anything because we never ever lower our standards on what we deliver in terms of a tier 1 media link. So very high DR, a very high organic traffic, and it must be an earned media opportunity. So for us, digital PR it operates with inbound opportunities, which is like platforms like Harrow that's now like SOS, or the other inbound opportunities. So that is waiting for an inbound opportunity and responding to that opportunity and trying to win that pitch. Or outbound is building a list of journalists and sending out campaigns to the journalists that work for these tier one publications. Now, having said that, there are, of course, caveats. Some of those inbound opportunities that come in are not from tier one publications. And in fact, some people spam that system by, pretending to be a tier one publication. And then they'll actually, they're looking to do a three-way link swap, let's say. This was prevalent on Harrow about 6 months before it shut down. It was happening significantly. So there was a number of people on that platform who were posing as, let's say, doing an article that will go on MSN or a website which looked sort of tier one-ish, like a reasonably high DR. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that it's not. And we have systems for that, just to check their outbound link profile. You can see if they're linking to a bunch of casino and stuff, then it's a well-dressed, let's say, spammy affiliate site. You would give your commentary to them. They would say, oh, this is great. I'm going to include it in my article, but I need you to give me a link on this article. So obviously we have in-house systems. We blacklist those domains and we avoid anything that looks like that. We never pay, blah, 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 blah. But really it's obvious. It's the links that you can't, it's coverage on websites that you can't buy links from. If I showed you a client link report, like for example, National Geographic, huge website, we can either reach out to them with a story and hope they include it, or wait for one of their journalists to say, I'm looking for an expert to give comments on this article I'm writing. And if we win, then we win. And if we don't, then we move on and keep going.
Okay. So there's two kind of things from that. You talk about the inbound channel and the outbound channel. So is that I'm guessing obviously inbound is where you're looking at those marketplaces where the journalists are, and where the PRs are, where they're putting out, so that the journalists will say, well, I'm writing a story on X. Has anyone got anything they can provide on this? Or I'm looking to talk to people who can quote on certain subjects. And then if you've got a client that matches one of them, then you'll pitch to that journalist. So that's what you would call inbound. And outbound, I presume, is obviously just the reverse, where you're going to journalists and saying, hey, we've got this story, we think it'd be fantastic for you. Is it that kind of, those are the two major kind of
exactly
ways where you do this, right? Okay, cool. So that's really interesting. So what do you do? So you've got a new client coming in then, and obviously I'm well known for being in the broadband, having been in the broadband space. So if you've got like a broadband supplier that's coming in, they're your new client, and they want to do digital PR with you, where would you start with them? When it comes to a new client, what's your starting process to try and work out how you're going to push them?
Yeah, so we recently just did a campaign for a broadband comparison site, but in the Canadian market. So first thing that we did with them was look at the credentials of the spokesperson for the website. So that's more an assessment on those inbound opportunities. So if you're going to pitch a journalist as an expert, you need to have verifiable, relevant credentials to as broad a topicality of queries that match the niche of the website, if that makes sense. So broadband fits quite nicely into that sort of broad tech niche, that technology niche. And this guy was he was the owner of the website, so he may have just been like a money man, let's say, but he was actually a tech guy, so he was like very ingrained in the like Wi-Fi technology arena, let's say, and had like really good technology credentials, degrees, master's degrees in internet stuff. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember, but he lent himself as a expert representative of the website perfectly for broad inbound technology related queries. So that could be things like LifeWire's writing an article looking for someone to give tips on where's the best place to position a Wi-Fi router in a 2-story house, let's say. I mean, that's a golden opportunity. We'd go as broad as possible. So if there was something even more broader, but still fit within that general tech niche. So looking for someone to give advice on, I don't know, hardware to do with a computer, let's say. So even though that's not directly related to broadband or Wi-Fi, This guy is still a technology expert. It makes sense for him to be, based on his credentials and expertise, it makes sense for him to be commenting on that. And then the link back to his website, if the journalist chose to include it, would also make sense from everybody else that's looking at that link's perspective. So Google's perspective, the journalist who's submitting that article to their editor for review. So it sort of ticks all the boxes and allows us to win those broad, niche relevant links on huge publications. And then on the outbound side, well, it's quite easy because broadband is quite a PR friendly sort of subject. So just the team have an ideation session and you come up with ideas that are going to resonate with the journalists, with the current news cycle. We also look at like data that we can, newsjack into the current news cycle. And I think we did a campaign with him that was blew up. We did one around Christmas, which was to do with can certain Christmas decorations being run all at the same time in the house decrease the strength of the Wi-Fi connection. It was something like that. They did really, really well. And then another one was just a simple like cheapest providers. And then we also looked at Sky Wi-Fi. You can get like Wi-Fi in the planes now. So we looked at like which airlines are offering like actual Wi-Fi that works. And then this is presented from that company as like their original research. They're the ones behind the story. You go out to a bunch of publications and then, the ones that like it will run with it. So.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. There's lots of parallels there because I used to do, I'm quoted in various newspapers if you Google hard enough, just a few years back now, on sort of, those broadband and technology related questions. But I never went out to people. We'd very occasionally, we'd get a journalist to proactively approach us and say, I'm from the Times and can we get a quote on this? Or have you got any? They were always particularly interested in speed test data and finding out which places have the fastest and the slowest broadband speeds, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I suppose what you're trying to get there is you're trying to build up. It goes down to experience, expertise, authority, and trust. Really, a bit like what Google is. The journalists are looking for the same thing. I'm guessing they want someone with experience, expertise, authority, they can trust to be that sort of third person in their article that gives their article more weight. Because obviously, a journalist is a journalist. There might be a specialist journalist in certain areas, but I suppose they always want comment from other people, don't they? Because that's part of the journalistic process, really, isn't it? To get that third party comment to add weight to an article, isn't it? So it's not just their opinion. So they're looking. So again, it's I suppose you're following those EEAT principles, just with real people there, aren't you? Trying to convince a person rather than Google, so it goes to the same thing. Yeah, no, that's really, really interesting. So, and what kind of you talked about newsjacking. Now that's a phrase I've heard before. Can you cover just a little bit more in detail what the actual process of newsjacking is for those that have never come across it?
Yeah, so when the journalists, they're continually having to produce content, and they're at the will of their bosses, their editors, to produce content that's going to get clicks, which will drive like ad revenue and readership for their publications. So a sort of staple in the industry of producing a campaign that's going to get traction is if it's already happening in the news, sort of something around that topic, it's more likely if you've got a story that's either related or at least tangentially related to that, then because it's in the news, you've got like a high chance of them wanting to perpetuate the motion of that news cycle and run with your story as well. If maybe it's a different take on the news, or maybe it's it's an extenuation of that current virality of the main story that's happening, which means it really increases your chances. So you want to jack into that by coming up with an idea that's like quick and fast and in some way related to what's happening. So if, for example, Beyonce was photographed walking down the high street with a broadband router for some reason, she was walking down the street holding a broadband router.
It's unlikely, but it might happen.
It could happen. And if it did, then I guarantee all the PRs that have got broadband companies on their books at that time are going to jump on it and think of something like, okay, it looks like it was broken. 5 reasons Beyonce's router could have broken and what to do if this happens to you. Like a quick expert tips piece. Or let's say Beyonce happens to have been seen and photographed in one of the states in the USA that happens to be, with a quick data research, you can see actually it's got the poorest deliverability of high-speed internet out of all the states. Then you could quickly say, Beyonce spotted in Texas walking down the street with a broadband router. If you can quickly get the data on all of the deliverability of speeds across all the states, and it turns out that Texas is, let's say, the bottom 3, then that would sort of, if you can see why those two things correlate so strongly and how that really increases the chances of that story getting picked up.
Yeah, no, cool. So do you, with those sort of newsjack opportunities, do you ever try and preempt it? Do you ever try to think things that are likely to come up? So if obviously, like say, if you've got the World Cup coming up at some point, and events that might happen, do you try and preempt it so you're ready with certain ideas that are maybe you tweak a little bit before they go out with kind of 90% there, so you can jump on it as fast as possible?
Yeah, and that's, yeah, of course, yeah, and that's a really good thing to do. That is becoming increasingly competitive because everybody does that. So obviously it's Valentine's Day today. So if you owned a flower delivery website, let's say roses, you was delivering roses, you need to have stories pre-planned. They need to have been done, weeks ago. All the outreach lists built, everything ready to go with, 2 or 3 days before, let's say, or even the week before, maybe 10 days before Valentine's Day, with the hope that you're going to be opened and in that journalist inbox at the exact right time for them to do their Valentine's piece or a couple of pieces they're going to do. But like I said, everybody is doing Valentine's Day pieces. So you really do need to try and come up with something very, very different, very unique, or do a lot of ideas in that short space of time. But yeah, again, you can sort of newsjack the event. So as opposed to just saying, it's Valentine's Day, there's other more unusual days like National Pet Day, for example, or there's there's a billion of these mental days.
Every day is a day of something, isn't it?
A weird day, yeah. So you can jump on the weird days, a bit less competitive, and if you can come up with an interesting idea that goes with the interesting day, then you could really be onto something special. But yeah, it's definitely a tool in the arsenal for outbound PR.
Yeah. So with all these, obviously, because it's all editorial, you might get coverage without a link. Does that happen often? Is it a case of you'll get
Ed?
Because I presume it's hard, because if you're doing this for people, it's hard to guarantee what they're going to get, I suppose. Is it? So is it you kind of end up over delivering or under delivering? How do you work the metrics when you're working with a client in terms of what they're actually going to get?
Yeah, it is. It is such a pain in the ass, honestly. And sometimes, and there's no single, like I said, you can't identify a single issue. Like, okay, these 10 publications, they never link. Okay, that's fine. Every other publication does link. We'll only pitch them because some publications the journalist doesn't link, or sometimes they link, sometimes they don't. I mean, they're journalists, they're not SEOs. They don't really care. Maybe they forget to put it in. Sometimes, if you have tracking on your outbound emails, so you can track the clicks and opens from the journalists, that on Outlook automatically adds like this weird tracking tag. And journalists are so lazy that they just copy, if they do include the link, they just copy and paste from the email, which has got that horrible like tracking tag. So it makes the URL like 1 billion characters long, and it's in the article, like, and on the Sun or the Daily Mail, it's like your site with like 1 billion characters at the end of it. Some editors will remove links, although that's rare. It's normally they're removed pre-publication, so you don't actually know it's been removed. It's just, you just think it's an unlinked mention. There's even 2 or 3 major publications that do not link, and they've got like just a policy where they won't link. And if you happen to have been featured and quoted, but you email one of the sister publications, then the editor at the sister publication will go in and amend that. And obviously with our wording, it's always, you've taken our client's comments. A fair attribution would be to please credit the comments with a link back to their site. If they say no, then so be it. We've tried everything in the past to do that. I know a couple of agencies currently that have gone pretty sort of OTT on threats to do with like Creative Commons and things like that to say, if you don't include the links, we're going to sue. And the publications are like,
Wow.
no, you can't do that. For us, it's try, ask politely, say, come on, it's fair. They've given their time. They've given you some commentary. A fair attribution is to at least, give them a link back. If they say no, certain publications we know they just don't link. Like they just will never, ever, ever link. That's just their policy. So we just don't pitch them, which is a shame because I think as unlinked mentions, I think will start to become more of a prevalent sign in Google's algorithm with AI and the amount of data that it's having to process. I think if it can read it as an entity on a page, then it will start taking in unlinked mentions, especially if it's the business name with the person, the owner of the website, let's say, and the publication name. I think it will start to take this into account. But it's a horrible thing because we want the link for the client. But yeah, to answer your original part of the question, we do offer fixed deliverables. So if you buy a 5-link package of us, we will pitch the media until we land you 5 links. So we just keep going.
But sometimes it could, I suppose, naturally, you might pitch, you aim for 5, you end up with 7.
Yes.
I presume sometimes, because if there's not editorial, you can't tell people to stop,
course.
can you, I suppose, at a certain point? Yeah.
And you do have campaigns that blow up and go above and beyond, but we don't like crawl back links or coverage. Like if they buy 5 links and we do a campaign that gets 10 links, like we finish the campaign. We don't get to like 5 links and then start emailing the journalist to say, please don't include, please stop, don't write this story. No.
Yeah.
But on the other side, like we will get you the amount that,
Yeah. And is that, do you aim for, are those followed links or no follow, or do you just count them both the same? Where do you stand on that one?
We aim for a 50-50 mix if possible, but it is completely out of our control. That is down to the journalist and the publication.
Yeah.
If you are going to build links, a lot of your audience are against link building, but those that want to dabble in link building, then for me, digital PR is the safest. If you're going to do anything outside of digital PR, like let's say, for example, guest posts or niche edits or PBNs, if you just build all do follow links, that's one of the telltale signs to Google. Your link profile is going to look horrendously unnatural. So real links in the wild, earned real links are a healthy mix of do follow, no follow. And some of the biggest publications in the world have, by way of editorial policy, no follow as their standard policy. So if you want to get a link from the BBC, it's gonna be a no follow.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I've found that obviously with my more natural link building process since the past 12 years or so, is that occasionally when we land a big link, I just notice it appears in our metrics. Oh, we've got getting traffic from this big site, or say the BBC, because we get some of my sites get just naturally linked from places. And then once you get that link, it's often quite followed up by lots of smaller links where other people who run much smaller sites have cottoned onto the same story or the same kind of thing, and then start their own piece and then start linking to places as well. So even because I don't spend quite so much time thinking about links all the time, I know that some people say, oh no, all no follows are rubbish, and some people go, oh no follows are brilliant, and there's no hard and fast rule on it. And I think, but reading the rules, as Google says now, they used to say originally that no follows do not pass PageRank, but they changed those rules. That documentation a while ago that says we only take it as a suggestion on whether to pass PageRank or not. So to me, that's Google saying, yeah, we generally probably won't. Most no follows, we probably won't pass any PageRank. But if it's from a big site, which generally does all their links as no follows, because Google have noticed that like big sites like the BBC no follow everything, Google is going to want those kind of sites to pass some kind of juice out. Otherwise, there's going to be a massive black hole sink for PageRank. So I think there's a very fair chance that links from a site like the BBC, if it's no followed, is still going to be beneficial for your rankings. Whereas a no-follow link from a user-generated comment on Reddit is probably not going to do you any good ranking-wise. So I think would come down on the side of, if I had to put my money on it, that those no-follows do have value if they're from the right sites. Well, even if they're Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we did a test with Kyle Roof, who's one of the big SEO testers. So we did a single variable test. We ranked 5 pages in Lorem Ipsum, waited for them to index. So identical pages in Lorem Ipsum. We took the page that was in spot 3. We sent one no follow link to the page in spot 3. And within 24 hours, it went to spot 1 and held spot 1 for still to this day. And the 2 caveats to that were, it was, one no follow link, and that no follow link was sent from a page that had traffic, so above 1,000 organic monthly. So it sent a signal. If you want to see it happen, you just do it in the wild in an isolated test environment on Google's own index, and you can see one no follow link was enough to move that page above all the others.
Yeah, and that's good. So I mean, so I'm a big believer. Any organically earned link, editorially earned link, no follow or not, is a good link as far as I'm concerned. I'd take a no follow off the BBC any day of the week over a followed link from a site with no traffic or a page with no traffic, because even if I got nothing other than just traffic that came from the BBC, it's worth it. And I'm pretty sure there's something else coming as well. So if obviously, I mean, this is all about white hat link building now, but what if someone's looking to do this kind of digital PR and is looking for help? Because I know there's so many services out there, and I know you've got your service, which is, to me looks completely legit, and everything you've said is like all the kind of advice I would give people when it came to, this is the kind of activity to do to get links in a natural editorial way. But there are, as you sort of alluded to earlier, and I know as well, there are services out there that say they're doing it in the right way, but aren't. So what are the kind of sort of red flags that people need to look out for if they're trying to find someone to help them with this kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's really, really good. And I don't want to badmouth or sort of name any companies. So my general advice would be, first and foremost, is ask any agency that you approach if you want to engage with digital PR. If you make the decision that you want to do some link building, because I mean, we can all agree that links work, whether or not you're going to earn them via amazing content or not. I mean, links power the internet. So if you do make that decision to make an investment, and it is a sizable investment, my first advice would be do it yourself. I've got a free cheat sheet you can go and get at linkify.io/free-cheat sheet. Tells you all of the free platforms that you can start pitching yourself as. You can pitch, a couple of times a week, 2-3 times a week. I tell you some target publications you've got a really good chance of winning if your expertise match their queries. So that would be my first advice. If you want to get yourself what I call a press badge, so 5 foundational tier 1 links that you can put on your featured, you have that banner on the homepage. I would advise to do it yourself. Time intensive, which is why people use agencies. But if you are an expert in your field, then go out there and get those first 3, 4, 5 links yourself. Outside of that, ask the agencies that you're engaging with to give you a sample link report. So this isn't bulletproof, because they could just give you a made up link report. But at the very least, at least that's your first place to say, okay, what are they thinking is like a billable, deliverable link from their site? Obviously, I can spot a bad link report from a mile away, but for you, what you want to do is, first of all, if you've heard of any of the websites. So if you've heard of all the websites, if it's BBC, HubSpot, The Guardian, The Independent, if that's the 10 links they're putting that they built for in a single campaign for a client, then go and pay for their services and see if that's what they give you. The other thing you need to be really careful about is sponsored content. So I've seen this multiple times actually recently, and I've had a few like prospective client calls with people saying, I'm talking to another agency, I'm talking to you. They said that they can get me like entrepreneur.com, Guardian, like 200 quid a link. I'm like, that seems cheap. Like they're like the rare gems. If you win that, that's like fantastic. But it's not every day. That's super cheap. And then they'll send over this. The last person I spoke to actually had like a sample link report, and I looked at the entrepreneur article that they sent me, and I just right clicked and went to inspect, went into the HTML code, I typed sponsored to see if there was a sponsored tag in the HTML, and it was said this is a sponsored article. So that means it's been paid for, which is fine. Like no one's breaking the law. The company that paid for it with Entrepreneur informed Google by way of the rel tag that it used within its article, and that passes no value whatsoever, because the publication is telling Google this article's been paid for. So which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a legitimate form of marketing. Many big companies like Adidas may do a sponsored article in Entrepreneur to tell the world about their new CEO, let's say. It's fine. But in terms of like link juice value, zero. You can also get like these PR wire releases. I don't know if you've seen these. They're like 100 quid. You can like literally plug them, play a press release, and it goes to like 500 different websites for 200 quid, £200. It's normally like really weird US based radio stations that's got like DW9 Fox FM 38.com in it, like a billion of them. They're useless. If they're going to charge you, 200 quid a link for them, they've paid 20 quid a link for them, and they're just marking up. So yeah, link report, try and get on a call with the owner and just say, look, I'm happy with no follow, do follow, but there can't be any sponsored links, and I want to know that you're pitching the media. Ask them how they're pitching and what platforms. Finally, the thing that I noticed, there is a couple of platforms out there that position themselves as expert commentary platforms, like Harrow used to be. So a platform to connect journalists with experts, and the experts pitch the journalists, and hopefully the journalists include the experts' comments within the article. There is a couple of platforms, I won't name them publicly, but they are posing as that sort of opportunity. But in actual fact, it's like a paid sponsor, like a content factory for, in fairness, like good websites. But the websites are paying for the content, and then the website is providing opportunity for quotes within like an article that will then go to that website. So it's quite convoluted, but you can spot them, because when it gets published, it'll be experts give advice on how to run your business well. And there'll be 15 quotes, and it'll just say expert's name, quote, John from a plumbing company. Expert's name, quote, Tom, who's a lawyer. Expert's name, quote, such and such, who's a Disney World expert. Absolutely zero relevancy. 20 links in an article, not editorially earned media. So a few things to look out for, I would say.
Yeah, that's interesting. And like I say, just to reiterate to people that, I've always been very cautious in how I talk about links. I have no problem with people doing whatever kind of link building they want. To me, it's all about understanding what type of links you are building, who you're paying for what, and where it stands on the line of what Google think about it. So if you want to go all full black hat, build a PBN, public plug network, pay for links wherever you want, and you want to go ahead and just do that, knowing that these are dodgy links. If you get caught, Google's going to burn you. You're just going for the quick win, churn and burn strategy. That's absolutely fine. I don't moralize about it at all. But it's more of where it comes to if people are buying a service, because a lot of people who are business owners have websites that's their living, and they're not on SEO, and they're not trying to do these sort of churn and burn systems. They're trying to build something for the long term. So if they do link building and engage someone to help them with their link building, which again, it's fine to pay someone to help you build links. That's not paying for a link, is it? That's just someone helping you do the work to gain those links. It's a case of understanding what the risk is and what the reward is. So if you want to by links, by ways that are against Google's guidelines, fine, as long as you know that's what you're doing. It just bums me off a bit when some people out there advertise services as being completely clean and white hat, and then a little bit of digging and you see, no, that doesn't meet the guidelines. And it's then if their customers get burned because of it unwittingly, that's when I feel really bad for those people that have been unwittingly done, which is why, I'm always say to people, educate yourself. Go and learn. Just read Google's guidelines about what they consider good link building and bad link building, so helps you spot where on the scale anything that you're doing or anyone proposes to you is, so that you can make an informed choice. And if you make an informed choice, know what you're doing, fill your boots to whatever you want. That's the way I see it. So, but it's nice to hear what you're doing, and hopefully people listening can understand just the amount of work that goes into gaining those links, because digital PR is by its very nature not cheap, is it?
No, it's not. And yeah, I agree with everything you've said. I that's the thing that disheartens me as well is if you are going to not agonize, but if you are going to sort of educate yourself to the point where you've put the effort into make a decision, and let's say you go, well, look, I've made the decision. I am going to build guest post links, let's say, to this page because it's really important to me. I'm aware of the risks, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they find a vendor that says that it's a guest post link, but it's not, it's a PBN link. It's like you've sort of, not only have you made that hard decision or a well-informed and educated decision, you're then getting burned from the provider.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Google does also say anything that you do to gain its algorithm is against its guidelines. So by its very nature, even if you write a piece of content that you write because you want it to rank, that is in breach of its guidelines. So.
I know. Yeah. With all these things, there's very few hard lines in SEO, is that everything's graduated of, how well it works, what the risk is. Everything has got, it's ambiguous basically. Yeah, no, it's tricky. That's absolutely fantastic. I mean, if people wanted to, you mentioned that cheat sheet, I'll put a link, I'll get that off, I'll put it in the show notes. But if people wanted to get in touch with you or wanted to look at what your services were and to, see if there's anything that you can help them with, where do people go to find that?
Go Linkify.io, LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn and X. So just Chris Pantelli on both. And you can find me. Yeah, happy to have a chat if you want to have a call. And actually on the cheat sheet thing that I've, the giveaway, well, if you sign up for that, then there's an option to book like a 10-minute call with me, and I'll just have a look at your website and make sure you're ready to start pitching journalists, because there are some really simple tweaks you can do just to your about page and make sure that you've got certain things at certain places, and it can massively increase your chances of journalists taking you seriously. So happy to do that as well.
That's fantastic. Well, I'll make sure all those links go in the show notes. So yeah, just go to those show notes, find those links for Chris and his company. And just want to say thanks very much for coming on. It's been a fantastic chat and very interesting to see the process you go through and how it works for people. It's been brilliant. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, and hopefully we'll have you on ours as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Awesome. Right, take care.
Cheers.
So that was fascinating. Great chat with Chris. I think there's a few key points I just wanted to sort of really go over before finishing the podcast. One was obviously the importance there. It's all editorial links and how important that is. Those kind of editorial links aren't going to get you into any trouble with Google. So it's important to remember that this isn't link buying. This is link building still, and using that drive of digital PR. And with that digital PR, it's always based around content. You have to have good content pieces for that digital PR to work. So you've got to, on the outbound side, that's all about content. On the inbound side, where people are looking for comment, where you've got journalists who are trying to find sources who they can talk to give comment on particular news pieces, that's when it's really all about the expertise, the authority, not just of the website, but really the spokesperson who's going to be there. So whether that's you yourself or someone who works for you, building up that expertise, it goes into that EEAT thing that Google always talk about. It's important for journalists too. So I think those are the real key things there to remember. This is all about editorial. It's all about having great content. I always bang on about how important good content is. Links are important, yes, but links pointing to no content will not get you anywhere. You've always got to have great content, and that's a real key to focus on. So anyway, that's it for today. And, until next time, keep optimizing, stay curious, and remember, SEO is not that hard when you understand the basics.